key philosophies I have. First, we will boost development of emerging industries. We hope that all industries will have a better competitiveness. We will also play into our position as the international financial center. We will make use of finance to accelerate innovation, to boost innovation in industries. We want to maximize the potential of the use of AI. I will set up and chair the Committee on AI Plus and Industry Development Strategy to take forward the work. That's why I have set a goal for AI for all, from blue-collar, white-collar workers to students and everyone. We want to, on all fronts, promote the full use of AI citizens and SMEs. We have put in place a dependent parents. We want everyone to benefit. This check is of an amount of $22 billion, an increase by about 1.8 times compared to the one last year, standing at $7.8 billion. This year's performance is the result of our prudent performance last year. We have to continue to exercise prudence. The position will be sustained. That's why the relief measure is not increased significantly. I ask for your understanding. The economy is improving. Combined with the use of technology, I am confident that our future will be brighter. The budget income is increased is more than $330 billion. Then the fund will be allocated for other uses. The valuation of assets of the fund is about $4.1 trillion. As you know, that the fund performed really well, earning $300 billion last year. At the same time, we need accelerated development of the northern metropolis. We need to attract enterprises and devote it to the development of the northern metropolis for our future. So, how is the line triggered? How is the action triggered? Is it the case that it will be possible to use more of the exchange fund income? We need bigger involvement from the to Shenzhen. In Shenzhen, there is a comprehensive change and university town there. And there are also industry. Exchange fund performed well, generating an income of $330 billion. From 2016 to 2017, we will transfer $75 billion to the Capital Works Reserve Fund and another transfer in 27 to 28 for this purpose. Ms. Chak, the community is concerned about the relief measures. You said that of last year. Of the relief measures, is there any room to increase the relief measures? Magnitude of tax concession allowance as well as a CSSA, that will be about $15 billion. We have also increased about $1 billion for elderly people to use their vouchers on checks as well as chronic illnesses management. On top of that, there are other relief measures, say, for example, increase in tax allowances. By increasing the tax allowance, we will have a tax foregone this year at $5 billion. So after we have increased the tax allowance, the tax burden on taxpayers is lightened. Our economy is recovering. This is the first step, moving from a deficit to a surplus. We have to continue to issue bonds for the development of the northern metropolis. Taking everything into account, we think this is a prudent move. You talk about tax allowances being adjusted. Tax revenue comes from salaries tax, profits tax, or stamp duty. Do you think that by changing the tax allowance, it will be a targeted approach to help the different sectors? We have increased the basic allowance, single parent allowance, dependent parents allowance, child allowance, covering employees and different stratum. We'll continue to work to boost the economy. We have to be cautious because of the complicated external environment. Within our means, we would like to, as far as possible, support the grassroots, the middle class, appropriately to address their needs. Now I hand over to Mr. Chen. Well, Mr. Chin, you talk about increasing source of income. You have increased the threshold for flats transaction of properties above $100 million. You said it will involve about $1 billion. It is a very subtle move. Do you think it's the right time to introduce this wealth tax? Are you concerned that this move will affect the property market? Apart from reducing cost or expenditure, we have to expand source of income. Of course, to have a robust finance, we have to focus on cutting costs supported by increasing source of income. We have to take into account our competitiveness. That's why we're very careful with our tax types. We will not, without good reason, introduce new taxes or change the tax base. We also adhere to the user, those who can afford it should pay more. We would like to ask those with means to contribute a little bit more when it comes to purchase of luxurious properties. That type of property accounts for about 0.3% of the overall transaction. From our observation, we saw that in the past few months, property prices has been mildly increasing. The market has been doing quite well. Every month, we register about 5,000 transactions. Overall speaking, last year, the volume was about $60,000, a high over 4 years. We think that this adjustment, asking those with means to pay more, will still enable the market to grow healthily. Well, there will be a GDP growth about 3.5%. However, when it comes to private consumption, it's a mild growth of about 1.7%. I think it's something to do with the wealth effect as well as the performance of the equities market and the properties market. You said in the past that consumption patterns is affected by consumption. We see that the CNH is 6.86. Do you think that there will be further change in consumption pattern in the future? Has the government conducted any assessments? Change in consumption pattern and visitor arrivals is something that we've been monitoring. We stage different mega events to attract visitors to get them to spend in Hong Kong. At the same time, we strongly support enterprises to transform and upgrade, say, for example, e-commerce. We see that the economy is improving. There are good signs. We also see a steady increase in income. The level of private consumption has actually reversed the decline in the past year or so. Let's have a break.
Welcome back to the TV forum on the budget. Ms. Kali Fong from the RTHK. Good evening, Financial Secretary. I think a budget is a good news for many employees in Hong Kong. There are enhanced tax allowances in terms of salaries tax and tax on the personal assessments. Now, the tax concession has been increased by some 10%. So why is there such a significant increase? Now, there will be surplus in the operating accounts in the future. Will there be further adjustments so that the tax allowance ceiling would become $10,000 like before? Over the past few years, we haven't adjusted the tax allowance ceiling. So having heard suggestions from the public, we have adjusted the ceiling upward by 10%. But down the road, we have to be prudent in managing our budgets. We have to consider our revenue condition, and there will be substantial expenditure in the future. So we have to adopt a dynamic approach in deciding that. Now, for parents, they are more concerned about the amount of child allowance. Now, the 20,000 newborn baby bonus has not been extended, and also the increase in child allowance only saw some 8% in increase. So some political parties suggested that we should change the child allowance to a progressive one. Has the government considered that suggestion? In setting the tax allowance level, we think cash allowance is simpler. The same level of child allowance applies to all years of assessments until the child is 18 or even 25 years old. Ms. Serena So from Now TV. Good evening, FS. Concerning the Northern Metropolis, the government will issue bonds and $30 billion will be allocated to the development of Hung Shui Kiu, Sentinel Pole, and so on. And also some surplus will be brought back from the exchange fund and the seed funds. Altogether, some $1 trillion will be spent on developing the NM. So will the government continue to ramp up the investments in the Northern Metropolis? And is the government worried that the investments will not yield fruit? Now we have injected an initial investment of $10 billion into the park company for the Hong Kong park. Now, like other science parks, the initial funds would help the park to attract investments and enterprises, and it will effectively attract market resources. So in the budget, we made a proposal that property developers team up with startups and technology enterprises, and the government can engage in a tripartite development approach to develop the parks so as to align the resources with our future development directions and into targeted industries. We will develop the NM step by step. Earlier on, the Development Bureau mentioned the approach of large-scale land disposal. The winning bidder will be responsible for building the infrastructure and introducing industries into the park. Now, you mentioned that we have to take it step by step. But what about the investment return? Now, according to the investment return of exchange fund, it was 8% in 2025. Now, $150 billion will be allocated to the Northern Metropolis. So when will we see the return? Of course, financial return is one factor to be considered. But besides that, there's also job creation and also acceleration of industry developments and also attraction of enterprises and their investments. Now, the NM is vast. Its size is 1/3 that of Hong Kong. The developments will take 20 years. The vision for the NM is a new economic growth engine driven by I&T development and also in synergy with other cities in the Bay Area, including Shenzhen. So we will invest in the NM step by step. We will harness market resources and take forward the investments in a multi-pronged approach. Now, this year's operating account has returned to surplus. For the consolidated accounts, it will come back to the even, including bond issuance. Now, this is the second consecutive year that we are expanding the bond issuance size. Now, the debt to GDP ratio will come to 19.9% in the medium to long range. Now, how can you convince the public that this is a healthy growth in terms of debt? Now, how do you explain to the public that we are not covering debt with debt? Now, as we all know, there are two accounts under the government's budget. One is the operating account. It takes care of the recurrent expenditure of the government, including salary payments. The second one is the capital account. That is for investing in the future. It's like purchasing a property. It's very rare that a property buyer would pay the entire sum in one go. Now our target is to achieve surplus in the operating account. Now the surplus can be invested in the future, like infrastructure. In the next few years, there will be big projects like the Northern Metropolis and also major roads and railways. The capital works expenditure will be some $128 billion for a year, for several years. So the main revenue source is land sales. It takes time for land sale revenue to recover, so there is a gap. So we are meeting that gap through appropriate bond issuance to support our timely implementation of the infrastructure projects, even ahead of schedule. So we are matching our capital needs with bond issuance. The debt to GDP ratio in year 2026 to 7 will be some 14.4%, and it will rise to some 19.9% in the next few years. Now, globally speaking, even comparing with our neighboring cities or even the advanced economies, their debt to GDP ratio is 100% or even more. So we are still at a very healthy level. Our philosophy is to harness market resources to help us accelerate development. That's something within a means as well. Now, we are concerned about the investment return from the investments in Northern Metropolis. So will that be able to cover the bond issuance? So will there be a dedicated bond for NM with transparent figures on investment return? The capital raised from bond issuance would be spent on developing the Northern Metropolis and other infrastructure projects. It takes substantial investments in improving the infrastructure over the territory, so it is not necessary to make a distinction between the projects. The important thing is the funds yield from bond issuance will not be spent on government's recurrent expenditure, but rather be allocated into the Capital Works Reserve Fund. So what is the investment return expected? As I said, it's more than financial return. It's also about the enterprises introduced and also jobs created, and how much it contributes to our future economic growth. We will take a short break.
back to the budget forum. Now we hear from TVB, Ms. Yumi Chak. FS, you said that you're concerned about SMEs. There will be continuous injection into BUD fund. However, the business environment for SMEs is still difficult. The debt ratio, even with the interest principal moratorium arrangement, is still high. So what do you expect needs to be done so that we will all be able to develop and grow into the future? You mentioned about liquidity as well as cash flow. In addition to the moratorium, there is also the 80% finance guarantee fund, the total loan guarantee fund, and that will enable them to raise capital for development. We support them, SMEs, to develop new markets. If they use AI-related technologies for transformation and upgrade, we will enhance our support to them as well. We make use of different bodies and different schemes to help them conduct digital transformation. Say, for example, if some enterprises would like to go global or would like to develop their business on the mainland, we have different platforms and different subsidy schemes through different organizations. Say, for example, the Productivity Council, the TDC, the Trade Development Council, to help them. You have also set up an advisory committee on tax policy, looking into how to make use of tax arrangements to attract overseas enterprises. Is there any room to look into reform of our tax system? Because there has been discussions over many years about broadening our tax base. You talk about an external environment and maintaining competitiveness, and this is not the time. But now we have the advisory committee. Wouldn't it be an opportune time to discuss it? The focus of the advisory committee is to enhance our tax competitiveness to get businesses. That is, to make use of tax arrangements to attract more companies to set up base in Hong Kong and invest here to help us make the pie bigger. Mr. Chin from Phoenix TV. Unemployment rate stands at 3.8%, which is a high in recent years. Some people said that with a recovering economy, if the unemployment rate drops, that will be perfect. But with robust promotion of the use of AI, the market is concerned that the AI will cause fundamental changes in the job market. So how do you address that? AI is a technology change that has the furthest reaching implications. I attended a financial forum in Davos. One session is about tech survival, that is, with transformation using technology. We consider not just whether to use it or not. If you do not react swift enough, if you do not embrace it, if you do not seize the opportunity, then you will be left out. In the 15 five-year plan recommendation, you see that AI and AI Plus has been given priority. We have to empower our citizens in Hong Kong, covering different age groups and different sectors. We all need to learn how to use AI. So from primary school to universities, we have to incorporate it in the curriculum. For those who are employed, we make use of the Employees Retraining Board to give them support. The most important thing is to encourage citizens to learn to use AI and use it well. When it comes to AI development, you talk about combining it with industries. At one point, you said that promoting synergy development of financial center and shipping center. There will be a green transformation in the shipping center. Last year, the volume of order has hit a 15-year high. That is, demand has outstripped supply has outstripped demand. So what is your rationale? On one hand, we launched series to encourage ship owners to register their fleet in Hong Kong. And by doing so, they will use our professional services covering legal and accounting services. At the same time, these ship owners can make use of Hong Kong as an international financial center to finance, say, for example, for conversion of their fleet or for conversion to enable green fuel bunkering. So that's why we have a Finance Plus. That means using finance to help other industries to transform and upgrade. So shipping plus finance is along this rationale. We have talked to major liner companies in Hong Kong and shipping companies in Hong Kong. They think that Hong Kong is highly internationalized. They would like to make Hong Kong a base for their fleet. We want to attract fleet to come to Hong Kong, and that is one of our strategies. Kali Fong from RTHK. Now, a topic that is close to the heart of drivers. The first registration tax for e-vehicle will expire at the end of March. In this budget, this will not be continued. Without this concession, would it dampen the incentive to switch to e-vehicles? Would it affect the government's goal of zero carbon? Our goal is before 2035, the carbon emission will be halved compared to the 2005 level. And before 2050, we will reach the dual carbon goal. Our goals remain unchanged, and we're very confident that we are moving steadily towards them. When it comes to e-vehicles, we've been encouraging owners to use e-vehicles. Over the years, we've launched a number of concessionary measures. The development of e-vehicles has been evolving rapidly in terms of technology, models, as well as price competitiveness. E-vehicles itself is competitive enough in the market. We don't think there is a need for the first registration tax. And about 70% of newly manufactured cars are e-vehicles. As you mentioned a number of these, that suggests that perhaps there can be bonds for medium terms. So would you consider issuing bonds with a longer tenure, say, for example, 20 or 30 years? Is there a demand for bonds of this tenure? There is demand. Financial institutions, say, for example, banks and insurance companies, would like the government to issue bonds of long tenure because the government has high credit ratings. So if the bonds are issued by the government, then they will have confidence because the bonds will give them a steady income. We want to raise funds to dovetail into the development of the northern metropolis. For some projects, the project time may be longer. We will need longer cash flow. We are actively exploring into bonds of a longer tenure. Now TV. Let's talk about the equities market. The equities market has become stable, especially when it comes to transaction volumes. It has increased by about 71% to $99.5 billion. Would you want to ride on the high and consider increasing the stamp duty for stocks and shares? we carefully consider our competitiveness when it comes to stamp duty. When you do business, you don't just think about yourself. You need to think about consider your competitors. We think that the current level is appropriate. The development of the financial market this year, as we see it, is very popular among companies because they've been queuing for IPOs. You talk about those with means should pay more. Now there is a change in threshold of residential properties valued over $100 million. So will there be further adjustments of stamp duty? Last year there was the talk of a land tax. The threshold of luxurious flat stands at $100 million. We have checked the share of transaction. It accounts for about 0.3% of total transaction. We think that those with means should make a bigger contribution to our economy. Hong Kong properties are attractive because Hong Kong is free and highly livable. People who do businesses here think that we are a brilliant business environment. It's a business-friendly environment. Hong Kong is very popular. We think that adjusting stamp duty for luxurious flats of a high value will not dampen our competitiveness. Let's take a break.
Welcome back to the last segment of the TV forum. Of the exhibition sector, the budget proposed to set aside $100 million to attract large-scale international exhibitions with new elements. Now, we have been collaborating with the TDC. The TDC has been collaborating with many international exhibition organizers. So what is your target? We have seen great development for our convention and exhibition segment. But we are looking to host more high-ended and innovative exhibitions to attract more international exhibitions to Hong Kong so as to attract high-spending visitors. So we are looking forward to receiving proposals from the market. If we can attract large-scale exhibitions to come to Hong Kong, we can move to more areas with interesting content. Now, we hope the MICE visitors will stay in Hong Kong for a few more days after the exhibitions and conventions. And also for exhibitions with innovative elements, usually the visitors are high value-added visitors. They would also bring along their family members to Hong Kong. So that would create a lot of economic values for Hong Kong. TVB, Financial Secretary, the government has been promoting nighttime economy a few years ago. Now the direction has changed to bring out more citizens in nighttime and boost the economy. In terms of mega events, we promise to enrich the contents of the mega events. There will be more mega events. With the commissioning of the Kai Tak Sport Park, there will be more sports, cultural mega events. For successful mega events, including the Wine and Dine Festival, the duration can be lengthened. There can even be local mega events. More resources will be allocated to now we are spending some $7.8 billion in tax concession and sweeteners. Now this time around, we are with Sammy Chin from Phoenix TV. Financial Secretary, I wonder if you remember that several years ago, in the last segments of the TV forum, I asked you a question, how to boost the fertility rates in Hong Kong. Now, last year, the number of newborn babies has dropped to a new low. The $20,000 newborn baby bonus will expire soon. This budget has not mentioned that it will be extended. Why not? Raising a child is a very enjoyable experience, but at the same time, it is a long-term investment as well. Of course, we encourage couples to have babies. There are pro-birth measures, support the measures mentioned in the policy address. In the budget, I have significantly enhanced the child allowance. That is also a show of support for couples looking to have babies. Let's continue to work on this. Now, we are worried about the aging population and declining birth rates. We need to bring in new immigrants, and we need to have new bonds so as to support our growth in the future. As an international metropolis, of course, we encourage all families in Hong Kong to give birth. At the same time, we have been attracting talents from other places to pursue growth in Hong Kong. The situation is very dynamic. Now, after a brief decline in our population, talent attraction programs, we have approved some 260,000 talents. 250,000 people have come. There are also 100,000 people who came to Hong Kong under the Top Talents Pass scheme. As an internationalized city, we welcome talents from all places. We also nurture our own talents as well. Ms. Carly Fong from the TMHK. Now on tourism, $200 million will be injected into it. So how will the fund be spent? We support Besides foreign visitors, we also want to give more options to local visitors. So through the integration fund, we hope that we can make the remote villages more. In the future, there will be more exciting shows. So please give us some time. At the opportune time, the CSTB will report to the public. Symphony of Lights has been shown for many years. We need some new shows. Now TV. Now in terms of property markets, there are no boosting measures to stimulate the market. Does it mean that the property market is good enough and no stimulation measures is needed? We hope the property markets can develop in an orderly manner. For the residential property market, over the past few months, property prices have stabilized with mild increase. Transaction volume has grown significantly. So the growth in volume outpaced the increase in price. We will keep monitoring the situation. Now, there are some 20,000 unsold units at the hand of the property developers, and there will be some 104,000 units for sale in the next 3 to 4 years. So we need to be mindful of the supply. There are 9 sites, land parcels for sale on the land sale program. So if it is necessary, we said the property market is improving. Management measures or the spicy measures. Now for home buyers, we have the home mortgage insurance scheme, which can cover up to 90% of the mortgage. So we believe that it is best to leave it to market forces. We have to be very careful in terms of managing the property market. We don't want the property markets to be overheated. So we have to be prudent. There is still some time left. In the future, there will be a local blueprint for aligning with the National 15th Five-Year Plan. So there are worries that different governments would make plans to sharpen their edges in certain sectors. So we are just working for the long-term benefits of Hong Kong. That concludes today's forum. Thank you.